There's nothing like an all-new model to mark an anniversary. And here's the neatly timed new Volkswagen Polo GTI, released 20 years after the original debuted in Europe. All those years, however, were spent living in the shadow of its more famous, iconic sibling, the Golf GTI. The hottest Polo, while a fairly good thing the last time around, has never been more than the sum of its parts, like its big brother. This time then, can the baby GTI finally add up to something more? It certainly has all the signature GTI cues ticked, including the horizontal red stripe and honeycomb plastic at the front, red brake calipers, dual exhaust pipes and stylish alloy wheels that are optional 18s on our test car. They're all applied to the biggest Polo yet. It's grown by such a margin over the previous model that it's almost as big as a 2003 Mark IV Golf. Bigger usually means heavier, of course, but to compensate there's now a bigger engine up front. What we have now is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo borrowed from the Golf GTI and Golf R. Before you get too excited, it is detuned for the Polo. Still, 147 kilowatts and 320 newton meters. That sounds promising in a city-sized car. Those healthy engine outputs ensure the new Polo GTI accelerates off the mark as quickly as the previous model, despite adding the equivalent of an average-sized adult in curb weight. 0 to 100 in 6.7 seconds also ensures parity with a key rival in the form of the Renault Clio RS Sport. In-gear response is more relevant to everyday driving though, and this is where the fastest Polo excels. With its usefully bulbous mid-range, the new GTI provides great response from 2000 RPM, even if you have the drivetrain in normal mode. Even though this is a hot hatch, the transmission does like to jump into a higher gear as soon as possible. Yet throttle response is still really good, and the DSG will downshift smoothly and quickly if you give the throttle a bit of an extra nudge. The engine could sound a little bit more exciting though, but we do have a sport mode which we can access by pressing this mode button down here. We'll go from normal to sport. Yeah, the soundtrack still doesn't really give you goosebumps, and while the GTI is undoubtedly quick, the acceleration isn't what you'd call explosive, and part of the reason for that is that the power delivery is just so linear, which is disappointing in one respect, though commendable in another. A bit more engine character wouldn't go amiss then, but no complaints about the DSG transmission. Okay, well there is one, as it refuses to hold gears even when you're using the paddle shift levers. But leave the auto to do its own thing and it's adept at picking the appropriate gear while also managing to avoid the low speed jerkiness often associated with DSGs and other dual clutch transmissions. Sport mode doesn't just influence the drivetrain though. As with the previous GTI, adjustable dampers are standard. The ride is firm, but the levels of comfort are quite acceptable. Quite impressive in fact for a hot hatch. And even in the stiffer Sport, the damping is really well judged. And if you do find the ride too firm, well, the Polo you want to buy is probably badged TSI rather than GTI. The firmer suspension isn't a surprise, as Volkswagen engineers have tinkered a fair bit with the Polo's underpinnings. The ride height has been lowered by 15mm. The damping is specifically tuned for the GTI, and the chassis has been beefed up, including a larger front anti-roll bar. The steering isn't the last word in communication, but it's otherwise excellent. It's direct, it's ultra linear, and I like the weighting whether you're in normal or sport mode. Alright, let's attack some corners. Okay, jam on the brakes, downshift, turn it in, load the corner up, jump off the throttle. Well, that back end is resolutely planted. It's not really moving around. Now, if you're in the old Fiesta ST or even a 208 GTI 30th anniversary, you would have been applying opposite lock there. The GTI then could offer some more playful adjustability. It's not quite the ultimate driver's pocket-sized hot hatch. but you can still revel and admire in its neutral handling. Very secure, very stable, and it resists understeer very nicely. The GTI would just welcome a proper mechanical limited slip diff in place for the electronic interpretation. It struggles to get its power down out of corners when accelerating aggressively. The cabin could also be sportier. There's not much what you might call GTI-ness to the cabin, especially in our test car, which has got the optional leather and fabric sports seats in place of the signature GTI tartan cloth seats. And there's only a small little GTI badge on the steering wheel. Can't see any other GTI logos, not even on the seats. But I do love the expanse of red plastic splattered across the dash. That really injects some much needed colour into what is otherwise a quite austere dash design for the Polo. Purchase a range of option packs as fitted to our test car, and the GTI cabin is transformed into a tech-laden domain with features such as adaptive cruise control, a large glass touchscreen, superb 300-watt Beats audio system, and a red graphics version of Volkswagen's cool high-tech digital instrument panel. However, such an outlay does push the starting price that has already matured to $30,990 towards $40,000. And for similar money, you could have a Golf GTI Original, if you're happy to live with 3 doors rather than 5. The Polo GTI doesn't have the same level of interior quality or cabin space as its bigger brother. Yet in almost every other respect, the Polo GTI is more than ever a case of, honey, I shrunk the Golf GTI. It's easy to admire the flagship Polo's impressive blend of sophisticated features, relatively refined ride, and muscular performance. Yet there's definitely room for a more powerful, feistier version, one with a bit more involvement, one with a mechanical limited slip diff, and yes, one with a manual gearbox. Polo GTI performance, anyone?